Hey everybody, welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo-O, 8:53, November 30th, 2023. We are almost at the end of November. Whoa, and wrapping into December. It's getting a little cooler out there, which is great. I love it. Especially on a motorcycle, it feels great. Oh man, so nice. Anyway, my name's Bo Willette. This is the Morning Devo with Bo-O. You could always check out the archives at my YouTube channel at Bo Willette, and it's right there, just Bo Willette. That's how you spell it. Just go in the search bar at YouTube and type in the name, and you should get to the channel. And you can watch all of the devotions that have gone before, the ones I upload. And got many books of the Bible. I do my devotions through the Bible. It's probably because I'm not a very smart guy, and I just tend to go through like book by book. It's kind of the way it's laid out. So when I was learning the Bible, I didn't, have a church. I didn't know Christians. I didn't, have this culture of Christianity around me in a sense. That when I just picked up the book, it said Genesis, and that's where I started. So I tend to just go through the Bible in my devotions. So today we're in Psalm 100. Yes, we hit the 100 mark, and we're at 101. 100, super small. It's a psalm of thanksgiving. I always remember Psalm 100 just simply because it's a psalm of thanksgiving. It's one that when Thanksgiving rolls around, I tend to think of it. And by the way, I got my old Jive hat on from, 91 maybe? Something like that, but this is an old Jive hat. There was all these different, subcultures in Los Angeles. And one of the big ones we were part of was that rave culture back in those late 80s, early 90s days. And anyway, so yeah, DJs, Ron Core, DJ Dan, Doc Martin, E-Zone, Raw. I mean, so many DJs that I remember back in those days. But a lot of us wore different clothing companies like Jive or Clobber or different things like that. And anyway, so this is an old hat I pulled out of the old archives, if you will. So Psalm 100, let's get into it. It says, shout with joy, all the earth. We've seen that before, right? That kind of shout for joy, all the earth kind of theme. And it says, worship the Lord with gladness. Again, we've seen that before. Worship the Lord with gladness, right? Not a dour sourness, right? But, worship the Lord with gladness. Have gladness in our hearts. Do I have gladness in my heart today for the work of Christ on my behalf? That God so loved me that he gave his only begotten Son for me, that I should not perish but have eternal life. Eternal life, man, that's worth it, And do I have gladness? Is that springing up a kind of an overflow of gladness in my heart? What's today going to be about? Is it going to be about, me achieving, my goals or this or that, or making, a ton of money, or, what is the goal today? Or maybe a good goal would be just to have gladness in my heart for the work that God's done for me. A real heart of thanksgiving there. It says, come before him with singing and joy. Yeah, singing, a part of that. Worship. We're learning a lot about worship in our Wednesday night Bible study with Pastor Scott Richards in Ezekiel, at the end of the book of Ezekiel. Man, super awesome. Wow, is it rich? Gosh, last night was off the charts again. Just thinking through some of the things he shared. You can always go to our YouTube channel, A Reason for Hope. That's A Reason for Hope, and go to the live tab, and you can get the latest message from the church, Calvary Christian Fellowship, with Scott Richards. So very cool. Anyway, acknowledge that the Lord is God. He made us, and we are His. We are His people, the sheep of His pasture. So now we see again this reiteration of God's characteristic as a shepherd. So it's interesting. You got a king, you got a judge, you got this, you got that. God's this way, God's that way, and now He's like shepherd. You know, so you have all these different character qualities you see, you know, in God in the Psalms. And it's interesting because, you know, in the church, you also have this kind of character quality as well. You have people that are shepherds of the flock. You know, you have people that kind of rule over the church, right? They kind of oversee it, right? And they're almost like kings and judges, if you will, of matters within the body of Christ. And so you kind of can see these different character qualities of God in the Psalms in actually the leadership as well of a church, you know. So that's kind of interesting, I find, as well. You know, but here you see definitely the character qualities of God in the Psalms. What is God like? Well, the worship music says that God's like a judge. It also says that God's, you know, like a king, and that He's ruling over His kingdom. You know, it also says that He's like a lawyer, you know, that He also is like an advocate for you. You know, it also says that He's, you know, like this, that he's what was this one? He is like a shepherd, you know, taking care of the sheep, you know. So that's kind of cool. Sometimes it's really awesome just to think about what God is like, the character qualities of God in a day. So you could do that today. And it says that we are the sheep of His pasture. It says, enter His gates with thanksgiving, into His courts with praise. So the idea of gladness, praise, thanksgiving. Again, give thanks to Him and praise His name. For the Lord is good. His unfailing love continues forever. Again, the Psalms stress that unfailing love of God, right? Things in this world are failing, right? Their love is failing. Our family's heart and flesh will fail us, right? Our heart and flesh will fail. But God is the strength of my portion forever. We learn that in Psalm 73. Yeah, so the Psalms always are looking upward as to the unfailing love of God. You know, the one who is walking upright is looking to God's unfailing love, right, to sustain him. And may that be the case in our life today, that God's unfailing love just sustain our hearts, give us emotional stability, right? Help us with the anxieties, help us with the fears, with the discontentments, with those insecurities that we have that move us, right? That move us in so many ways to say what we say to people when we're sharing. A lot of times we're sharing out of insecurity, fear, these type of things, and we say things, right? And sometimes, like our hearts, it reveals kind of where our heart is, where our heart is not really set. We're not okay in God's unfailing love, and that happens to all of us. We're all so frail like that, right? And but the Psalms keep looking to God for His unfailing love, so that's cool. So okay, that's Psalm 100, a psalm of thanksgiving. Very cool psalm. Hey, we didn't create ourselves, kind of idea. God created us. Do I think that my ability to work is because I'm so this or I'm so that? Or do I see even my abilities as grace gifts from God? Sometimes we can boast in our schooling. Oh, I had great schooling. And I must say that as a guitar player, I've had great schooling. Everything from Music World in Simi Valley. Thank you, Larry, the owner of that place, and Steve, my guitar teacher. I mean, those guys just invested in me as a little kid, and I thank them for that. And then, all up to my college years and my professors, Ron and Ron. I mean, they were just awesome. And, I've been definitely fed into in guitar world, in the music world, and but do I thank him for that, but do I also thank the Lord for just the grace, the hands to be able to do it, the mind that works with the hand and the coordination to be able to move your fingers like that on a fretboard. Man, that's what a grace. So I love that passage where it says, acknowledge the Lord God, for he made us, right? And we are his, not ourselves. It's like we are the Lord's. And man, what happens in a society that doesn't believe that believes that they are the ones that dictate everything? They are the masters of their universe. Well, there's not much room for thanksgiving because there's no one really to thank but themselves, right? Because they did it, right? You do it. And you can see where a lot of selfishness comes from, right? If we're not looking upward, then we tend to be looking where? Downward. Pride. Yeah. Yuck. Anyway, Psalm 101. I will sing of your love and your justice. Oh, cool. Love and justice. So it's not just this lovey-lovey, and it's not just this justice, right? Love and justice. It's kind of interesting. Kind of feels almost like polarities, at the ends. You got love over here, you got justice over there, And I will sing of your love and your justice. You're not only a righteous God and you're a righteous judge, but you're also a loving judge. Whoa, that's cool. And it says, I will praise you with songs. I will be careful to live a blameless life. Then you will come to help me. Lord, I'm gonna look at my life, and I'm gonna look at what's going on in my life, and then you'll come to help me. Lord, when I start looking upright, you're gonna come and you're gonna help me. I'm gonna be careful about my life. Wow, that's interesting. Careful about it, meaning you almost like give thought to it. You think about it. I have a little plaque behind me. You could see it. It's kind of shining with the kind of front light that I have going on for the stream. But it's a kind of a neat saying. I have to read it to you one day, but it just says, hey, the day's over. You've probably done a lot of blunders. It uses the word blunders, and it says in your day. But you know what? Tomorrow's another day, and just get ready and you got another day, but it's that idea of careful kind of examination of, there's some things today that I didn't do that well. And, I could certainly, work on this, God. And, Lord, maybe I'll have another day, to work on that area. God's good to give us that area. But that's the idea of walking upright too, is just walking in a careful way before God, thinking about God as I walk, as I take steps in the day. I like that. And it says, I will lead a life of integrity in my own home. Ooh, very cool. Do I live a life of integrity in my own home? What am I known for in my own home? Am I known as a mean person? Someone who's kind of, do I get in my house and I'm just judgmental, blah, 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 blah. Am I a slanderer? Do I just talk about people in my house? Guess what is going on with this person's life? Blah, 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 blah. Guess what's going on in that person's life? Blah, 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 blah. Ooh, whoa, right? It's like, no, maybe in my own home, I am to use some discretion. And maybe in my own home, to walk upright. Maybe there's some things that only really, maybe it's between me and God, right? And, people don't need to know about all that. And, certainly, how's my lustful attitudes? Do I come home and I'm just very lustful? I just kind of sit and, drink my stuff and watch my shows. And I just tend to be wrapped up in a lustful kind of gluttonous lifestyle. Is that how I am at the house? So it's just, I love that kind of idea of integrity in my home. It's one that certainly convicts me, because it really, in our homes, sometimes we feel like we can let our hair down. And, what we mean by that, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's good, to let your hair down, right? But to walk in integrity with God in our home, and gosh, that's something where we all look at and we all can go, I know. Well, if you're like me, you kind of go, yeah, I haven't done the greatest with that. That's for sure. I could do better. And I know I need to work on some things there, and I certainly do. I confess that to you right here. There's certainly things that I could do better when I'm at my house. So I love this. It says, I will refuse to look at anything vile or vulgar. Isn't that cool too? Man, that's for our day right there. There's a lot of things to look at that are kind of vile and vulgar. But yet, we can tend to gravitate towards that. I've always taught this over the years, but it's very normal for human beings to want to look at something vile and vulgar. It's very normal, meaning us human beings are very prone to like to see kind of the vile and the vulgar and the destructive behaviors. I mean, TV is a great proof of that. It shows us just how messed up we are. In a sense, TV is a reflection of us. We tend to gravitate towards things, all kinds of things, right? And it kind of is a reflection of us and what we like and our passions and our thoughts, our desires and things of that nature. And, so that's normal. When someone comes to me and says, hey, Bo, I got to tell you what I've been watching, and I'm not blown away at all. It's like, yeah, that's what humans do. Humans watch all kinds of crazy things. We've been doing that forever as human beings, right? The weird thing is that we have a distribution of everything. That's the oddity to our world today. It's not that humans want to view things that are weird or vulgar or vile. That's us. That's our fallen state. But it's that we have a distribution of the vile and the vulgar. Anyway, but that's something to think about for sure. We tend to, always go to the excess, and that's in our hearts. We have things that are distorted, that are moved, that are bent, that iniquity. And so we tend to go to a lot of times extremes, right? Yeah, I could watch a little bit of this, but I tend to watch too much of this, right? We tend to go more. I should play this sport a little bit, but I play it way too much. We tend to go just way overboard in things. I tend to be that way too. I get into something and then pretty soon I'm kind of wrapped up in it, and it takes over my world a little bit. And it could be a lot too. So, but the vile and the vulgar, right? Especially things that are, definitely not for the Lord, definitely things that are super against God. We definitely can go that direction. But here David, and by the way, this is a psalm of David. David says, hey, I don't want to look at anything vile and vulgar. Did David ever look at anything vile and vulgar? I'll let you answer that question. It says, I hate all who deal crookedly, and I have nothing to do with them. I will reject perverse ideas and stay away from every evil. I will not tolerate people who slander their neighbor. I will not endure conceit and pride. Wow, this is really covering all kinds of things. Hey, I'm not going to hang out. I'm not going to be that person who's watching that stuff in my home. I'm going to make sure that when I'm in my home, I'm walking uprightly. I'm not going to have any kind of perverse ideas, any ideas that are wrong. I'm not going to have tolerate people who slander their neighbor, right? Slandering like the devil, talking about people, talking about them in negative ways. I'm not going to be that person. It says, I will not endure conceit and pride, this kind of idea that you're somewhat better than the person you're talking about, that somehow you got it together, somehow what's really going on, this whole thing. Notice it hits all these massive areas of our lives. Gosh, pride, conceit, slandering, right? Perverse ideas, vile and vulgar things that we look at. Living a life of integrity in our home, living a blameless life. I mean, man, this is something really to strive towards. And we see that really the only righteous person seems to be Christ, right? Jesus seems to be the one who is on par with this, doing this absolutely right. It's a very convicting psalm of David. And David seems to go, Lord, I'm going to praise you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to go your direction. I don't want to go the other way. I just want to stay with you. Help me in my, be with my tongue. Let me be with, I don't want to have pride and conceit. I don't want to look at things, that are vile and vulgar. Rich people, and have a lot of opportunity to see some vile and vulgar things, right? They have enough money to do all kinds of crazy stuff. And so, but it's not just the rich, it's all kinds of people that nowadays that we can have things in our homes that are vile and vulgar. And, we've all succumbed to so much of it. It says, I will not search for people I will search for faithful people to be my companions. Only those who are above reproach will be allowed to serve me. Wow. So this sounds very much like where Paul the Apostle might be getting 1 Timothy chapter 3. The elders of the church are to be blameless, that kind of idea, above reproach. Wow, maybe he's got Psalm 101 in mind. Since that is the Bible that Paul had. Wow, very cool, right? So 1 Timothy chapter 3, or Titus, I think chapter 1? Yeah, probably chapter 1 of Titus. Both those New Testament books, Titus chapter 1 and the New Testament book of 1 Timothy chapter 3, really flow like this. Really hit me like this. I mean, similar stuff. Only those who are above reproach will be allowed to serve me. That's the end of verse 6. I will not allow deceivers to serve in my house, and liars who do not stay in my presence. Right? Consistency, faithfulness, those who stay with you, that are not just wishy-washy about their walk with God, right? But stick with it. Stick with the Lord through the thick and the thin, the good times, the lean times, the fat times, the whole times. And it says, my daily task will be to ferret out the wicked and free the city of the Lord from their grip. The idea of kind of that good shepherd, the one that takes care of the flock, the one that watches out for the flock, right? To ferret out the wicked. As the King David of Israel hanging out in Jerusalem, he says, I'm going to make sure that I, as a governor, as a king, as the president, deal with those things that are against the Lord. And that's the big picture here. That's kind of the big contextual picture of the psalm, is David as a king going to practice what he preaches? Is he going to do it in the home as he is saying he's going to do it as the king? Do our leaders do what they preach? Right? That's the idea. And that's always something to look at in our world. Does our politicians live like us? Do they live like us people? Do they live in homes that are like us? Or do they live in amazing homes? Is their healthcare different from us? Is the food they eat different from us? And if it is, why? Right? Why are they on such a different level than the normal person? Do they say things, but they really aren't doing it? because they're living such luxurious lifestyle. They're living in some other plane, another tier, if you will, and not really with the people that they're supposed to be serving as a politician. There's that kind of idea, but there's the idea of the pastor. Are we preaching, and are we really practicing what we're preaching, right? Because we're preaching, but are we practicing what we're preaching? And sometimes there's failure there. I teach on pride, but yet I'm prideful. I teach on greed, but yet I find greed in my heart. I preach on envy, but yet I find envy in me. I teach on don't taming your tongue, but I find that I don't tame my tongue. Do I see that in my life? And I go, whoa, yeah, man, absolutely. God, help me to walk in an integrity in my life. Help me to walk more upright with you. And to keep my eyes away from things that, aren't going to be pleasing to you. So it's a great psalm. It's certainly one that is a psalm of a leader, King David here. And we see that it really goes in line with those leaders of a church in First Timothy 3 and Titus 1. And so you could check that out too. But just practically speaking, it's, like Paul says, walk the talk and talk the talk. I like that. Walk the walk and talk the talk. That's right. I like that a lot. So it's very much based on that kind of idea. So we all need help with that. We all need some work with it, and we're all working, hopefully towards that. So it's good to have these kind of psalms. I kind of like them. They're convicting, but it's good conviction. It's one that's needed for sure. So Psalm 100, Psalm 101, great psalms, thanksgiving, and then one of them is a walk of integrity. Ultimately, man, we are thankful for the Lord for his wonderful walk of integrity, his righteousness, Jesus' right life. He was able to be the one who's without reproach, and he's given us that righteousness in a sense. He's given it, not in a sense, but really he's given us that, in exchange. He's taken our sin, he's given us his righteousness. Man, that's crazy. That's awesome to think. Crazy in the sense of it is absolutely astounding crazy. Like it seems the kind of love and everlasting love that shows is wonderful. And that's the kind of love God has for us. So we can look to Jesus, be very thankful for his righteous life. That there is someone who did live a righteous life. That is a great example to us. And remember, Jesus is transforming us into his image. Man, this image, this kind of image, he's moving us into that. And, from glory to glory, we're going in that direction. So cool stuff. We'll talk to you later, and hope you enjoyed those two Psalms. Bye-bye.